What a break. And go going on.
Welcome aboard, folks, for another edition of the Anti-Broadcast. Chances are you're listening on the recorded archive of the show. And in that case, thank you for downloading, streaming. We're going to have a fun show. Fun show in that we're going to take a look at what's ahead of us, what potential we have as a human species on this planet, surviving alongside a tyrannical world dictatorship. What kind of choices are ahead of us, what kind of dangers are ahead of us. And there's a lot going on this year in respect to all of that. One particular thing that my co-host Francesca brought to my attention was a particular astrological alignment, a square between Uranus and Pluto, which we've only really seen around 1938, isn't it? When
no,
the Nazi Empire...
The last time that that this particular transit took place was between 1927 and 1933. And because these transits, they're both outer planets, so they move relatively slowly. So a square And just for readers who are not necessarily familiar with what that means, in this particular situation, I mean, right now, Uranus is in Aries and Pluto is in Capricorn. And the last time, and those are 90 degrees away from each other. They're literally 3 signs away from each other. So that's another way to conceive of it, is that, there are actually, there's Aries and then Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, etc.
So to give a more vivid visual depiction, it's kind of like the corner of a square inserted into the circle of the zodiac.
Exactly. You could think of it visually that way, that it literally is 90 degrees because each astrological sign is 30 degrees. So anyway, but moving back, I just want to make sure everyone had that foundation, because otherwise it's very abstract. The last time that we had this configuration was during, not the beginnings of Nazi Germany, and particularly the period in which Hitler ascended to power. So that's pretty striking, that, and when I first learned that information, I found it very chilling, and it made me wonder, well, I mean, like I said, this isn't something that happens, every other day. It hasn't happened for, what is that, like 60 years, over 60 years. And it really hit me, and I was like, what are we in store for now? Because that was pretty devastating on many different levels. So it gave me pause.
And you know that we don't talk shit on the anti-broadcast. We don't read things online and then take them for granted, and we don't just come up with ideas off the top of our heads. If we're talking about something, we actually believe and have seen this to be the fact of the matter. We don't pick up on random conspiracy theories. To be honest, up until 6 months ago or so, my approach to astrology was, look at my horoscope. That was it. I had a little bit of an inkling that maybe there could be something into this, because sometimes a particular vendor would give a Leo horoscope every month, and I'd say that would be dead on. That was dead on for me, and I guess that the calculations were closer to my birthday than anywhere else in that zodiac month. But for the most part, horoscopes are fluff put into newspapers and magazines, mostly aimed at middle-aged women, I imagine. But I've come to see that there's a lot of truth to astrology. As I've watched the stars and I've read my own natal chart in depth, I realize that what's up there is a very accurate picture of what's going on down here. And I was really, just as much as Francesca, taken aback when, I heard of this Uranus-Pluto square going on since around the beginning of 2012, isn't it?
I'd have to check the exact date, but the approximate time period, I mean, it really hasn't started to go more exact, and its influence is being more powerfully felt now.
Ah, okay, so it's kicking off now, and it's going to fizzle out somewhere in 2015.
Right, because
So
the way to understand it is when two planets form an exact square, where they're exactly 90 degrees apart, that's where the influence is felt the strongest. And then when they're more or less, it's called moving in and out of orb. That's the way astrologers refer to it.
Okay.
So if it's at least and there's disagreement on this, but if it's about like 7 or 8 degrees off of that, you'll still feel it, because these planets are constantly in motion, of course. So this isn't like an instant it gets, and in fact, because of the nature of these of the way these planets move, it over this period, over this 3-year period, it will be forming squares, and then sometimes it goes retrograde, moves back and forth. That's how it lasts so long. You see, and at those times, it'll at multiple periods during this 3-year span, it will be forming that exact square. So you can think of it at those times, there'll be greater intensity and possibility of incidents occurring. And I hope that's clear for listeners.
Yeah, basically what you're saying is astrology is a science of degrees.
Well, it is very mathematical, but it's not. This isn't some one-time thing. That this is like it happens on one big day and then it's gone.
Yeah, like 2012.
No, the influence gets stronger and stronger, and one can think of it almost like in terms like a rhythm. Okay, where it gets closer and closer, the influence gets more powerful, and then it gradually dissipates.
Wanes.
Or exactly. But let's move to an explanation of what this means. It was important to set up a little bit of background there. Just to backtrack, and I want it to be very specific, I said that the last time this occurred was during the period in which Hitler ascended to power. Just to be really exact, because I went and looked it up just now, it was between 1927 and 1934 that this square occurred. And this was the last time that A, there was a square between Uranus and Pluto. B, it was the last time that Uranus was in Aries, which is where it is now. And that's how long it takes for Uranus. It's like over this past, like over 60 years, it's been moving through all of the other signs of the zodiac. That's how slowly it moves. It's really very generational, multi-generational in its movement. So it's made its return to Aries. Now, during the mid-1930s, late 20s, 30s, Pluto was in Cancer. Okay, forming that square. Okay, and now Pluto's in Capricorn, which is the exact opposite of Cancer. And in terms of what that means, Uranus represents freedom, individuality, the assertion of individual rights, and with it being in Aries, that gives it a lot of power. That Aries is it's aggressive. It
it's
deals
the ram.
with leadership. Exactly. You can think of it that way. Yes, of that imagery of the ram and what that connotes. So what we're seeing, and with Pluto in Capricorn, that's all about power. That's what Pluto is, but Capricorn really intensifies that. It's about power, control, authority, and particularly in this case, with Pluto being in Capricorn, with covert authority, with really dark authoritarian forces.
Under the covers.
Exactly.
Unconscious movement as well.
Yes.
Right?
And on numerous levels, where they're acting covertly from behind the scenes, and also we can look at the aspect that they're working covertly to manipulate our consciousness, and so there's different levels at which this can be understood. It can be understood on the way it's manifesting in the global socio-political arena, and in all of the manipulation of us through the media, through, in all of its aspects, whether that's through television, film, advertising, the internet. Okay, the way that all of this is, because in the end, as it's been said time and time again, this is a war on our minds. and I do agree with that. So the conflict is about, and we're seeing it manifest, and this is a conflict. I just want to say it's been with us all along, but it's reaching a peak now. That's the difference. It isn't like it wasn't, like it just started to happen, but it's the conflict that that's coming to a head between the assertion of individual rights and freedom and this, these powerful forces, covert forces of authority.
And we're seeing evidence of that in our world this year. I've been guided to a lot of different events that have been going on lately, from late 2012 and right up until this moment. Shifting of government and political structures, power structures. There's a lot of reorganization of police forces, as well as our old ways of government. You have the Irish referendum to abolish the Seanad, which happily didn't go through. We were going to replace our Seanad with 3 judges, which is a severe downscaling of the checks and balances. Not saying that those actually work these days, but it's better than 3 judges. You also have the government shutdown that lasted 2 to 3 weeks in the United States. There was a deadlock between the House of Representatives and the Senate. On deciding,
referring to the government shutdown.
Yes. There was a disagreement. There was a deadlock between the two of how to spend money. So no money was being spent. A lot of people were put out of work, were furloughed, which means leave without pay, and making it impossible for these people to actually apply for any kind of benefit to support their families while they were being furloughed. Devastation, and I'm kind of glad that they put an end to it a few days ago. We have Plebgate continuing on from 2012 and being revived this summer. A lot of things that we're going to get into in the show. But can I ask, Francesca, is this, considering Pluto is involved, and, we're talking about, the darker aspects of life, the unconscious, is it Uranus, our freedom, our individual freedom, is that literally, symbolically, our freedom being put into the crucible to see if, we can actually handle it? Because
it's not necessarily that. It's actually it's the manifestation of the conflict between those two powerful. Uranus is just as powerful as Pluto, so it's not going into they are like, it is literally like Uranus is in the sign of the Ram, and it's literally battering against Pluto. I mean, this is a fight. Okay, this is a conflict of wills, and if we get any idea, I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to have another Holocaust. Okay, however, if we look at the energetic underpinnings of what was happening, during that time period, during that earlier period, it was a very similar conflict of those energies.
Yes. Because the people in that part of Europe were actually on their way to striving for personal freedom. It just so happened that a bright star with all these wonderful promises of a brave new Germany came to the fore, out of the shadows, out of nowhere, really, and said, "I'll be your freedom."
Right.
and he just usurped that energy. And I see Obama, for instance,
Yes.
being that very
Yes.
same archetypal
Yes.
force, where they're you know, there's other manifestations of this as well, but I think the hidden hand is putting out these faux freedoms.
Yes.
Like,
indeed.
we're going to change the way the government works. We're going to reform the way the police are policed. All
Right.
this nonsense. They're giving us a faux version of freedom. And I guess it's, you know, why I asked that question of you, Francesca, is because I'm wondering, is this the moment that we have to decide whether we want the system's form of freedom, or we want to break out and find our own definitions of freedom and actually step up to the plate ourselves?
Well, I think that we have that opportunity, because I don't view this this configuration, this planetary configuration, as doom and gloom. On one hand, I'm quite aware that things could get extremely ugly. And we should not, I mean, if we look at what's happened so far, that those who are in control will not relinquish it easily. And just as we saw the extreme measures that were taken during World War II, that extreme measures have been taken and will continue to be taken in their struggle to maintain control, and to and the lengths that they will go to in their deception. But at the same time, that Uranian energy is extremely powerful, and just like, I think it's important for us to try to learn the lessons of history, and that it would be helpful to look back at that period, but look back and deconstruct it and try to understand what actually occurred. Because most of us, I mean, have been told, oh, you know, Hitler was defeated, the Nazis were defeated, the guilty criminals were prosecuted at Nuremberg, and all of that was over, thank goodness. And in reality, as you know, as some have been speaking about quite recently, and I'd done some research on this, but it was very fascinating to hear a presentation, an interview with what is the name of that gentleman who has that kingdom in Germany, who has an independent community within Germany?
I have no idea. I'll have to look him up.
Okay. Well, we'll be sure to put that link up for you all. But anyway, I just want to get into what this man said, because he's actually the leader of, I mean, they're calling it a kingdom, but it's an independent, self-sufficient community within Germany. And, you know, so he talked about the Nazis. I mean, that, and what he said was, you know, really striking, and it confirmed what I had been reading over the years, that that Hitler was not acting on his own, that he was financed and backed and brought to power by individuals, by a global group of individuals. They weren't all. They were. And there were corporate forces, global corporate forces then, that were bankrolling his rise to power. And we can think of IBM. He didn't say this, but I've researched this. IBM, BMW, Bayer. In fact, if we look at the background of Monsanto and Myriad, they each had involvement in World War II.
Well, that's how they became so powerful, is that they did the business, the dirty chemical business in Nazi Germany. Exactly.
You know, so, and there's a number of other corporations. I've only named a few.
Well, the Bush family
Prescott Bush.
Yes, Prescott Bush. And this is verifiable. All of these things we're mentioning are verifiable, by the way. Prescott Bush was a big funder of these criminals.
That's right.
Henry Ford. I don't have any intel on him. All I know is that he had a picture of Adolf Hitler in his bedroom.
There was a lot of support. There were people within, while the U.S. government claimed to be against the Nazis, it's awfully strange that Wall Street appeared to be supporting them. Okay, and many different corporations were doing so. So anyway, getting back to what this gentleman was saying, he was allowed to rise to power. He was groomed to be in that position. He was serving a covert global agenda. So he was not just acting as a lone mad figure. There was much more to it than that. And it went beyond Germany. Okay, and we need to ask ourselves, why were they supporting him? Why did they want him to rise to power? What did they want? What did they seek to get from this? Okay, and they were doing it very covertly because there was this doublespeak going on. On one hand, oh, this is terrible. Oh, we have to fight for freedom. And actually, the U.S. military was drafted to, as to fight with the Allies. Okay, but the same kind of doublespeak goes on even now. They say one thing, they do another, and it makes no difference what the politicians stand up and say one thing, but if you follow the money, it tells you a different story. And in the end, if you really want to get closer to the truth, you have to follow the money. Okay, because that'll let you know where people are, where they're really coming from, versus how they want to placate people and what they want them to believe. But getting back to World War II and how it's relevant to now. Did all of this end? Like we were led to believe, oh, it's all over now, Hitler's gone, he's dead. Okay, however, certain of the Nazi war criminals were made examples of and were prosecuted at Nuremberg, but there were many others who escaped.
Many.
And they were allowed to escape. Some of them escaped to the United States. And they had falsified passports and identification and ended up working in scientific capacities because there was a high demand for the scientific research conducted by the Nazis.
It was juicy.
Yeah, they wanted it. So a lot of these people came in, and for those who would like more information about this, look up Operation Paperclip. Okay, if you look that up, you'll find a lot of information about how these individuals ended up in scientific research facilities, laboratories, think tanks.
Mental institutions.
Exactly.
NASA.
Exactly.
God knows what other underground bases. And there's even talk of this, what was the School of Americas, just Google these stray little crumbs that we're giving you, and it'll add up to a loaf of bread, I promise.
And if you Google Bush Nazi, you will find all sorts of things about how, particularly not so much George W. Bush, or the recent president in the United States prior to Obama, but his father appeared to carry on his father's legacy. Because he had different think tanks associated, and there were connections to his cabinet. Like these people, these Nazis, were still, and people who were perpetuating that agenda were working with him. So these affiliations had not ended. Okay, so in all of this, if you pursue this, all of this can be substantiated. So this agenda continued. It only changed form. They wanted us to think it was over, but they were still at work. And if you look at just a lot of the corporations that were involved in this back then, like these corporations are still, very much alive and well today.
And stronger.
Exactly. And they simply continue their agenda in a more covert form. So, so now things are coming to a head once again. But they never really ended. But we just see them, becoming, and where they're becoming exposed. And that's another thing, that's another aspect of what the square is of this conflict, is that there is an increased exposure of these covert forces. I mean, an example of this, and I was reading a very interesting piece, another astrologer was commenting on this aspect, and gave the example of Edward Snowden. And that would be a very, very clear example of the manifestation of this square. Of the increasing number of whistleblowers who are stepping forward and exposing these covert machinations. So, so in looking at what's going on now, all of this is starting to come out. But I just want to stress that it's very important to study history and study the relationship between what's going on now and what happened before, and not to see these as two totally isolated circumstances, because they're not at all. And what we're actually seeing is the continued manifestation of what occurred historically.
That was brilliant. That was a brilliant condensation of all the facts that we're dealing with here. That we do have a hidden hand that seems to be worming its way through time. And it is, like you said, you stressed yourself, it's important to look at these things because now we understand a little more about what's going on today. You say that it may not result in a Holocaust this time around, but I have to wonder about these claims of 1.6 billion hollow point bullets being purchased by the American government. This is even in Forbes, This is in mainstream media, not just InfoWars. There has been pictures of vast amounts of plastic coffins in the United States.
I've seen them, and yes, I mean, I hesitate because I don't like to sound doom and gloom and to engage in fear mongering. However, as I said at the beginning of this show, when I learned about this aspect and realized that the last time it occurred was during the beginning of Nazi Germany, I mean, it was pretty frightening. Okay, yes. And I would say that there is a likelihood under this aspect that a lot of people are going to die. It won't necessarily, it's not going to manifest in exactly the same way as, people being rounded off to concentration camps, but I don't know. There are FEMA camps that have been set up in the United States. And it remains to be seen where this is going, And already, I would say that if we look at the drone strikes that are occurring throughout the Middle East and in North Africa,
that is a Holocaust.
Yes, it is. I mean, people aren't in camps now. It'll be done a different way. You see, I mean, but the casualties could be very high. Because, as I said earlier, they will not relinquish their power easily. And if we look at how did they deal with the opposition then, that'll give us a clue to what we're getting ready to face. That's why I'm saying study history but really the underpinnings, not the way we've all been taught, because we really weren't taught the truth about that.
No.
I mean, like Hitler was, think of someone like Osama bin Laden. Okay, I look at Hitler in like a similar way. Someone who's groomed to be that global villain, and everyone can focus on that villain, and they're allowed to rise, so everybody can focus their energy on them, and then once they're taken down, people think it's over, but the agenda continues. And we're still dealing with the continuation of that agenda. And now I remember, because I was really trying to get back to a point that had almost slipped away, was that during World War II, we had this opportunity to stop this. Uranus was in Aries. But did we really succeed in stopping this threat? We only seemed to. We were given the illusion of that.
We were given the faux victory.
Right. But yet their agenda, in fact, their agenda went very covert after that. Even where, and then we saw it begin to take strength again. In the United States and in the UK, I think we began to really see it take strength. I don't want to go too off topic with this, but if we look at the aftermath of World War II, at the McCarthy era, at the witch hunts that occurred during that time period, that was, to me, a sign that they were still at work. And many people thought that during the whole period of the 60s and the early 70s, that this huge, wonderful change was upon us. But what ended up happening? Where did that go? We were given this illusion of moving into greater freedoms. So, that's my having lived through a lot of this, particularly the 60s and 70s. I look at what followed that. The 80s and Reagan being in power, and then the Bush family. And I really ask myself, we thought we'd accomplished so much, and did we?
Nope. No, y'all were just on so many drugs that you thought you accomplished something.
I don't want to completely negate things, but I just look at these forces that just became covert, and part of the agenda was to give people the illusion of freedom, the illusion of choice, because they learned that if you make it too obvious, people will rise up against it
and tear it down.
Right. So, you don't do away with the Constitution. I'm speaking from a person who previously resided in the States. No, you don't get rid of the Constitution. You make people think that, oh, we're in a democracy, we're free. What do you mean? What do you mean? We fought hard. Look at all of the rights we achieved. And so that they won't see what's going on. And then then you can slip in all of this stuff. The best way to enslave someone is for them to not believe they're a slave.
Exactly. Well, I think with that background, we should bring our focus back onto the present day and the present era, and how this pattern is back to visit again, only in a different form. Instead of a big world war for us to fight the big evil man and then win, and then we can all go back to our homes and it's okay, we don't need to reform the way we live our lives, it's okay, the bad man's dead. We've got the same shit going on, just in a different form, in a more reformation, restructure government kind of way.
And that's all Uranus. Everything you're saying, that's the Uranian energy. That
But
you
it's
have,
it's the subversion of that Uranus-Aries energy. That's what I'm getting from what I'm seeing in the news today.
That's what they're trying to do, yes.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we take a look at those things so that we can avoid them. So we can say, hang on a minute, maybe, this is just a ploy. Maybe there's something infinitely more radical that we can do to get back to a semblance of individual freedom. And first, I'd just like to play the next track. Just to have a break so I can go take a pee and we can, reorder ourselves and take it from here. Tonight we're playing a lot of drum and bass and liquid. And what you heard at the beginning of the show was All These Years by Andy Sim. That stood in place of our anti-broadcast jingle. I've been rearranging my computer, installing new software, so I've lost it. I've lost the jingle. It'll take me a few days to find it, I'm sure. But the next time we have an anti-broadcast, you're sure to hear it. Anyhow, the next tune from Severity Zero. This is The Grudge. Okay. Before we bring things up to the present moment at hand, Francesca found something, some commentary by one of her peers about the last time Uranus was in Aries.
Yeah, well, some of it we've mentioned already, but another critical circumstance that manifested during that time was the Great Depression, was the crash of 1929, and so in many ways history is repeating itself. However, we have the opportunity to transform this, because the energy is there. The energy of Uranus is there for us, for us to take hold of, and and in a way, many of us were duped the last time around, thinking that everything was over, that there was closure when there really was not. And, but just turning to some of the parallels that are going on now, and which we'll explore in greater detail in terms of specific incidents. In many ways, there are parallels. The stock market, there hasn't been a crash like that of 1929. However, it definitely fell very dramatically. We're in a very deep recession. There's very high unemployment.
People are kicked out of their homes.
Exactly. Many foreclosures, and people that have been driven out of their homes. The whole banking system is in crisis, as well as the real estate market. And this is happening here in Ireland. This is happening in the United States. This is a global situation. And we're already, as we alluded to, seeing the exposure of the practices of Wall Street, the banksters, etc., where people are questioning all of this, and where they were, where they know that they've been ripped off, that they've literally been robbed and are being robbed. So, we're in a situation where, many people have hit bottom and are speaking out and taking action. And we've got, a very rising, and this is the Uranus in Aries energy of the truth movement, and of people that are exposing what is going on. So we have to really, I see this as an opportunity for us to really dismantle these structures that have been oppressing us, and to take action. And I'm very interested to see just where this is going to go. That I don't want to see it just be, a repeat, or to look at take some fatalistic approach. Oh, we're all just screwed. I was very inspired by reading this in particular, and this was from another astrologer. What we get from all this is that humanity is learning once again this lesson. And notice I said once again, because it keeps repeating until we grow. Corrupt structures will be broken down in order for new structures honoring human freedom and individuality to exist. And if you mind, I'll repeat that, because I think it's extremely important for us to contemplate that. And to think about what we can all do to bring that into action. Corrupt structures will be broken down in order for new structures honoring human freedom and individuality to exist. The structures eventually are broken down because they are corrupt, but it is a hard fight. This time around, it will also be explosive like a volcano. So, something to think about. And also that in the tarot, Uranus can be visualized in the card in the tarot that really depicts the energy of Uranus is the Tower. And Uranus is also the sign, the planet of revolution, of revolution, of cataclysmic change. Explosive change. And with Uranus and Aries, extremely powerful and forceful events.
It's all quite miraculous, really. I'm not immediately jumping out with something to say here, because I find myself contemplating how we live in this beautiful mandala of reality. Everything and everyone seems to have its place in a beautiful picture. It's something that's always continuously transforming, and just by looking up at the stars we can see how that is being played out. But where do we sit in this? You know, I think that we sit in the driver's seat. You know, we're plainly right in the center. We are where it's at. Our current space-time location is so I'm fishing around for a Terence McKenna quote here, but where we are in our current space-time location is the closest thing that we can act upon. And I don't know, maybe we're repeating ourselves, but we just want to really impress that that's what's to be kept in mind through all that we're talking about here tonight. Just keep that in mind, that you are where it's at. You are the first step. If this is going to turn out to be a disaster or a major success, it all depends on you. It all depends on me. It all depends on Francesca. It all depends on each one of us realizing what Uranus and Aries squaring this Pluto in Capricorn is giving us. Is a fucking opportunity. And now that we've, tied a few things together, we should look at some of the things that are going on in the world that give us a very accurate reflection of this square in the skies. As I mentioned at the start of the show, we had a referendum in Ireland to abolish our seanad, which, is pretty much, our, what would you call it in America? Our
Congress?
Congress, yes. It's our, it's not the executive branch of the government, but it's one that gets in the way. And it has a strange correlation with the Congress in America, since over the past few weeks the government has shut down in America, meaning that they weren't spending any money, they weren't doing any of the work. Maybe on the state and city level, because they have somewhat independence, but the whole federal government kind of just packed it up for a few weeks, because this nasty, terrible Congress full of Republicans decided to debate things. They decided to say, hang on a minute, we don't necessarily want this. So we're given this idea that, we have this old structure and we need to break it down because it's getting in the way of our freedom, quote unquote, which isn't really freedom, it's just freedom to continue interacting with the state. It's still freedom to go to work. It's freedom to collect benefits. In Ireland, the freedom that was offered to us in exchange for abolishing our seanad is to have an extra 22 million in our back pocket in order to give to the banks, who will take away everything anyway. And we're given the impression, or rather the American people were given the impression, that superhero Obama stepped in and saved the day. He, he didn't actually do anything, did he?
No, not really. I mean, they didn't really. It wasn't really the impression that he was saving the day so much. It was really what I noticed from what I read was that the Republicans were vilified, that this was their fault, that that this shutdown occurred because of their obstinance, because of their actions, that that this had happened, and that Obama stood up to them.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't take any shit off of them, and so that he wasn't blamed at all. Like no one was looking at that administration for this. I mean, anyone else, a government shutdown, and just to be very specific, people were furloughed. That meant that they were basically forced to they were sent home with no pay. And really over a 17-day period, okay? Because this shutdown commenced on October 1st. And for people that were deemed to be in essential positions, they still were required to go to work. But with no pay. Their pay was deferred until the shutdown was over. And fortunately, it didn't go any further. And thousands of people claimed, because I just want to give a slight, amendment there, that the people who were furloughed were actually in a slightly better position than people who were forced to go to work. The people who were forced to go to work could not claim any benefits.
Okay.
Right, because they were still at work. Okay, but but this was a devastating situation with shutdown of services, people out of work, and many people in the States live paycheck to paycheck. So to not be, so to have no pay for 2 or 3 weeks was devastating. That could make all the difference between people making their mortgage payment, their rent payment, getting food. People were caught up, but did anyone blame Obama and his administration? No. It was the evil Republicans.
So what's going to be the answer then in the minds of the Obama bots and everyone except for the hardline left and right and the conspiracy theorists? Everyone else is going to think, yeah, shit, all we need is an executive branch. Obama's fantastic. He'll just take care of everything. He needs to make the decisions.
Well, even during this shutdown period, there were people protesting, calling for an end to Congress, which is pretty scary.
Wow. Wow, that's the most retarded shit I've ever heard.
Just like during the whole gun control debates, there were people who wanted to do away with the Second Amendment. So you have people that want to dismantle the Constitution, and possibly, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but there are actually people calling for these things, which is scary in and of itself. And I'm just looking at it and just wondering. I just feel that there's another agenda at work here. That on the surface, it's okay. We went through the shutdown, and now supposedly that's over. Okay, that Congress did pass a bill to end the shutdown and to reinstate federal spending, but that this whole political theater was allowed to happen. Okay, it's from what I've observed, and other observers have also confirmed this. Have had come to similar conclusions. They knew there was going to be a shutdown. This wasn't something that just happened. They knew in advance. So as I said a minute ago, this whole thing was a political theater. Okay, to advance an agenda, to perhaps to discredit the legislative branch of government, that some sort of change is afoot, and that was used to herald that change, and to provide a rationale for that change, perhaps.
Because everyone's feeling this Uranian energy, even the people that don't believe in in astrology. Even the people that don't believe the world necessarily needs to be changed in a big way, we're all feeling it. And when, the faux alternative is presented to us, we'll be a little more inclined to believe it and get in line for it if we're not totally up in the facts. There's a lot of other stuff going on in respect to the Uranian energies at work, and it seems, and I'm not big on the current events in America, but I do notice that we had Plebgate, which started in mid 2012, concerning some clash between a government worker and a police in Britain, that really kind of dug up this whole drama over, oh my God, maybe the police force aren't angels. Back in 2012, there was a altercation between what do you call this particular kind of person? Okay, I'll just read from Wikipedia. Okay, the Plebgate scandal in the United Kingdom concerns an altercation between Conservative MP Andrew Mitchell, the former government chief whip, and the police, which took place on September 19th, 2012. It gained notoriety initially for the conduct claimed of Mitchell, and again 2 months later, subsequent to Mitchell's resignation. CCTV and other evidence was revealed which appeared to call into question some of the evidence against Mitchell. And that was just a few months ago. That was a year after the actual event, when Mitchell was alleged to be yelling obscenities at the police, calling them plebs. And he was just going home. He was leaving the gated Parliament building, at night, with his bike. He was going on his way home, and something happened. Something happened between him and the police. The police alleged that he was calling them plebs and just yelling abuse at them. He always denied this. All of the police involved said, yeah, this guy was really, nasty. He was calling us plebs. They were all in cahoots. They were all agreeing. But just this year, a citizen leaked CCTV evidence that shows that Mitchell didn't do any of this. He was just being roughed up by these police. So now you have this governing body overlooking the police in the London area, and everyone's up in arms. Everyone's saying, the police, they're real scum. We need to do a complete rehaul and reevaluate how we police the police. Which is very strange indeed, because you have the Justice for All group. Let me just pick up the... a group of DOL members, including Luke Ming Flanagan. And if you don't know who Ming Flanagan is, he's a guy who's been running for government since God knows when, and pushing the pro-cannabis and pro-general freedoms kind of slant. He's gotten elected, and he's moved up the ranks, and now he's a TD. As well as Mike Wallace, Claire Daly, Joan Collins. They are pushing for an overhaul of the office of the Ombudsman. And if you don't know what the Ombudsman is, that's basically the body that overlooks the police, that polices the police, essentially. And we all know, everyone knows, even our good friend Morgan from Tyrannosaur Community Radio, he knows damn well that there's no point in talking to the ombudsman. You make a complaint to the ombudsman, you won't hear anything, okay? Because they're all the same thing. They're working together. This group realizes that this is the case, and that they're, that they're out for blood. Reading from the Irish Examiner, Justice for All say many of these cases concern serious injuries ranging from boundary disputes to murder. And they are, I'm not exactly sure what stage they are in their little fight with the Ombudsman Commission, but it is quite strange that you have this parallel in Ireland and Britain, and then you have the parallel of the government shutdown and the Shannon referendum in Ireland and America.
Yeah, because they're different manifestations of the same energetic conflicts.
And one thing that I want to stress is that this may be genuine. These people may be genuine. This people involved in this overhaul in Britain may be genuine. Even the call for a reformation of the Irish government may have involved genuine people. But we've got to look beyond these little puppet shows, okay? I'm sorry to say it, but Justice for All isn't going to do jack shit. If they do actually do something, then there's always going to be a loophole for these cunts to hop through. There's always going to be a way for corruption to take hold again. So let's not put all our faith into these happenings, into these events. Although I will, keep track of Justice for All and what they do, and I will lend my support to them where I can. I personally am not going to put all my faith into this bandwagon. And there are a lot of other strange things going on as well concerning the questioning of the integrity of governments and rulers. Like you have, should we get into this now? The whole Claire Daly thing,
Why not?
We are in that moment. Okay, well, first of all, you have Malala Yousafzai.
Let me take a look. It's Yousafzai.
Ah, okay.
Yousafzai.
And she
not
is
saying mine is right, but
she is a Pakistani teenager. Yes.
Yeah, she's 16 now.
And do you know more about her story than I?
I mean, well, she was, she received worldwide attention a couple of years ago when she was shot in the face for her commitment to education for women and girls. And and she was brutally attacked because of the position she took. And since then, she's been speaking out on a variety of issues. And quite recently, she criticized Obama. Obama wanted to sit down and talk with her. And she wouldn't go along with the hypocrisy, because of course he wants to make it look as if, and she actually did talk to him, but she criticized him quite forthrightly and told him that the use of drones fuels terrorism, and she was very critical of the continued drone attacks in Pakistan.
And she's not the only one to, bring that up, as we'll get into later. I like what the guy from the Young Turks brought up, which is the tendency for everyone to be invited into the Oval Office to instantly just drool all over the president, whoever it might be. It could be the most bent war criminal in the world, and the person being invited to the Oval Office might be the most hardline anti-war activist on the earth, and they will go right in front of the guy, and that happens when you come into proximity of power. You're like,
well, not Malala, which I'm quite impressed that she wasn't doing that. Nope, no dick riding Obama there.
Exactly. Come on, she got shot in the fucking face, man. Once you get shot in the face, you're not going to be afraid of Obama.
Or anyone.
Hey, you know what? Maybe we all need to get shot in the face.
She's a very courageous young woman, and I mean, that she's still alive and still speaking out is miraculous.
It really says something. It really does. And a place like Pakistan, you have your, closer to the capital, closer to the Midlands area of Pakistan. Things are okay, things aren't blowing up left, right, and center, but on the fringes of Pakistan, which, I can only assume that she's from, firsthand of the violence. The power fluctuations between the US-alleged Pakistani government and Al-Qaeda. Who, there's always a to and fro, bombings, internal struggle, civil war, basically. Not really civil war, since a lot of these fuckers come from outside of Pakistan. But this is where this girl is from, and still she stood up to that shit. Maybe, it'll be worth, listening to what she has to say. Maybe she might inspire us for our struggle over here. If only we all had that courage, that would be just beautiful. What I want to do now is draw attention to another very courageous woman by the name of Claire Daly. She was in the Irish Parliament there on June 19th, following a visit by the Obama family to Ireland, and she was just pointing out, what a bollocks this guy is, and how we put on a show for him and just drooled all over him as a country. I'd like to play that for you, but first I'd like to ask you to listen out for the reaction of Enda Kenny, the Taoiseach, or the Prime Minister. He just starts to fumble all over his words. He has absolutely nothing of merit to say. He just comes out with a bunch of rhetoric and bullshit. He's talking shit, basically. And you know that he's trying to think really hard of something intelligent to say, because everything out of his mouth is rubbish. It's like he's buying time with rosy sounding language in order to come up with some kind of an excuse of why this woman is wrong. And I'll play this for you now. It's quite fascinating. We'll be back in about 12 minutes, folks.
Taoiseach, I think it's important to take this opportunity to bring a bit of balance into the discussions around the visit of the US President and his wife, given the almost unprecedented slobbering over them that the nation has been exposed to over the last number of days. And it's really hard to know which is worse, whether it's the outpourings of the Obamas themselves or the sycophantic fawning over them by sections of the media and the political establishment. We've had separate and special news bulletins by the state broadcaster to tell us what Michelle Obama and her daughters had for lunch in Dublin, but very little questioning of the fact that she was having lunch with Mr. Tax Exile himself. we had very little challenging of the fact that she's glad to be home, a country that she's been in less than a week and that her husband has very tenuous links in. And of course, the biggest irony of all, the protestations of Obama himself in his speech to the children in Northern Ireland about peace, when he said, "Those who choose a path of peace, I promise you that the United States of America will support you every step of the way. We will be the wind at your back." Now I ask you, is this person going for the Hypocrite of the Century award? Because we have to call things by their right names. And the reality is that by any serious examination, this man is a war criminal. He has just announced his decision to supply arms to the Syrian opposition, including the jihadists, fueling the destabilisation of that region and continuing to undermine secularism and knock back conditions for women. This is the man who is in essence stalling the Geneva peace talks by trying to broker enhanced leverage for the Syrian opposition by giving them arms, and to hell with the thousands more who lose their lives, or the tens of thousands more who will be displaced as this war goes on. This is the man who has facilitated a 200% increase in the use of drones, which have killed thousands of people, including hundreds of children. And you, Taoiseach, you are the one who's turned a blind eye on these activities. You've talked about the G8 being an opportunity to showcase Ireland. But is it not a reality that you have showcased us as a nation of pimps, prostituting ourselves in return for a pat on the head? To be honest with you, we were really speculating this morning whether you were going to deck the cabinet out in leprechaun hats decorated with a bit of stars and stripes to really mark abject humiliation here. So my question to you, Taoiseach, is as follows. What steps are you going to take to follow in the correct statements and the correct decision of your colleague Taoiseach Eamon Gilmore, who voted against the lifting of the arms embargo in relation to Syria? What steps are you going to take to ensure that no weapons for Syria are going to go through Shannon in breach of our international laws on neutrality? What steps are you going to take to showcase this country not as a lapdog of US imperialism, but as an independent nation with an independent foreign policy which takes a lead in international diplomacy to outlaw the use of drones, the favourite method of extermination of your friend Mr Obama?
On the Taoiseach. Right, please. Well, let me confirm to you first of all that the President was not inquiring about your whereabouts or your well-being. I think your comments are disgraceful. I think they do down the pride of Irish people all over the world, who are more than happy to see this island be a host to the G8, the leaders of the most industrialised nations in the world. And for you, Deputy Daly, to stand up here and criticise the American President for giving a continuation of support for a fragile peace process in Northern Ireland, where over 3,000 people lost their lives over 30 years, is a disgraceful do-down. And if you represent those people on the back line over there, if that's the kind of comment that you intend to make, well then it's beneath you actually. Even those of your predecessors in their brilliance never matched what you've just said here. Let me remind you that the communities in Northern Ireland and the politicians from administrations in this House here, of all governments, together with British governments and Northern Ireland politicians and Northern Ireland communities, have put together a very fragile peace. And far be it from you to come in here and criticise somebody who wants to support that process, visibly, personally, and with assistance from the United States, where 35 million Irish Americans, Deputy Daly, want this peace process to continue. And the young lady, the young student who introduced the President in Belfast, put her finger on it very well when she said the reality is that Northern Ireland has had a past, and the reality is that Northern Ireland has a future. And that future, Deputy Daly, is one where peace in communities and across communities should abound. And it's beneath you to say that the American president should not be a party to keeping that process alive and visible. Insofar as the discussion on Syria is concerned, there was a serious discussion at the G8 summit with the members of the G8 themselves. I'm not sure whether you favour the Russian intervention here or whether you favour what the European Union put forward. While there was division among the countries in Europe about the lifting of the arms embargo, Ireland took a very clear position on this, which was articulated by the Taoiseach, that the embargo should not be lifted. But the conclusion of the G8 summit was that the Geneva peace talks should take place. Nobody wants to see wanton slaughter and the exodus of hundreds of thousands of people from Syria. And far from a warmongering discussion, the situation here is what can you do to bring about discussions and negotiations that will restore, in the first instance, peace to this situation, and in the second instance, a structure that will allow Syria to continue in the time ahead without the obscenities and the humanitarian crisis that we've witnessed in the last 2 years.
Deputy Daly, 1 minute. Please. Yeah. 1 minute, Deputy.
Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. Of course, I said nothing about the Northern Ireland peace process, a process which everybody supports, but is not one that gives you a licence to do whatever you like anywhere else around the globe. There isn't much peace in Iraq, where 26 people lost their lives yesterday. There isn't much peace in Afghanistan. There isn't much peace in Pakistan, and there certainly isn't much peace in Syria. And the side I'm on in Syria is the one, and what I agree with is the statement by Oxfam, where Oxfam said sending arms to the Syrian opposition won't create a level playing field. Instead, it further risks fueling an arms free-for-all, where the victims are the civilians of Syria. Our experience tells us that the crisis will only drag on for longer if arms are poured in. And that's in essence what the Americans have done here. I can only take from your non-answer to the question that you were asked is that you're going to take no steps to ensure that those arms will not be sent through Shannon in breach of our neutrality. You said here last week no arms ever came through Shannon. How do you know that, seeing as no investigations take place? The reality is, in 2012, 548 US planes landed in Shannon. How do you know what was on them if you haven't examined them? Your Minister for Transport revealed in a parliamentary question that 239 civilian planes landed in Shannon, where they sought permission because they were carrying munitions of war or dangerous goods on a civilian aircraft. What steps are you going to take to intervene in this situation? And the last point I'll make is that people in this country are very fond of our American brothers and sisters, and I think we stand far more shoulder to shoulder with them by making valid criticisms of their president, who has broken his election promises, rather than just pimping this nation as a tax haven for their corporations. I'm sure the Americans would far prefer if their multinationals paid their taxes at home rather than offshore here, so they could develop their health care, so they wouldn't be wasting money on arms being sent to slaughter people in other countries.
Thank you, Deputy. Final reply, Taoiseach.
As you're aware, 100,000 American people are employed by Irish-owned firms across 50 states, and something similar here from American-invested corporates in this country. The American government, and I don't speak for them obviously, have taken the view in terms of withdrawal.
Obama walked up and said, yes, we can. I said, I want to ride your nuts, cause I think you're the man. Now I'm dick riding Obama, Obama. Now I'm dick riding Obama, Obama. Now I'm dick riding Obama, Obama. Now I'm dick riding.
Dick riding for tomorrow, dick riding for today, dick riding for the straight, dick riding for the gay, dick riding for America, dick riding for Iraq. It's okay to ride that dick, just as long as it's Barack's, and now we're dick riding.
That little track at the end of that recording from the Irish Parliament was a song dedicated to Enda Kenny, or whatever the fuck his name is, for dick riding Obama. That came from the excellent TV show The Boondocks. Brilliant social commentary, brilliant racial commentary as well. This is some disgusting behavior we see all around the world in response to this Superman, Barack Obama, who has come from the very clouds themselves to save us from all our strife, to lift us out of our economic depression. It's ridiculous, and it's exemplified by the parody music video from the Boondocks, Dick Riding Obama. Especially coming from the fictional rapper that it's supposed to be put out by, which is a very, very heterosexual, very certain of his sexuality rapper, Thugnificent. It's really says something, the lyrics. It's okay to ride that dick as long as it's Barack's. That's what the world is doing. Not saying that our leaders have been riding the dicks of every goddamn US president ever. The whole debacle over Shannon Airport has been alive and well way before this whole question of whether we should run guns through that airport to Syria. Back in, since 2001, the Shannon Airport has been open to the US military to transport troops, bombs, and even bomber planes themselves. They need somewhere to fuel before they make it there. No one else would do it for them. So they came to us, a neutral country, and the only excuse that the nutcases in this country could come up with is that America, employs so many Irish people, they invest so much money, we don't want to put that at risk. And the answer to that is pretty obvious. Money is money. It has its own mind. If tax is low and all of the expenditures related to setting up your industry in an area is low, you're going to do business there. It doesn't matter what the ideology of the people is around you. We know that because Nike and McDonald's and pretty much everyone that runs these sweatshops, they continue to work with countries that are militantly Muslim and in areas communist. It doesn't bother them. And yet, again, this argument is brought up by Enda Kenny as basically a reason to shut the fuck up and just go along with it because America hires so many Irish people and pumps so much money into our country. Oh God, if we were ever to lose that, we wouldn't be able to take care of ourselves, would we? Another obscenity from this guy is, well, shit, I forgot what I was going to continue with there. Fuck it. Here's a song. This is Utah Jazz, circa 96.
What it is, what it is. What you into, man? See, you got a heavy rap, clean. Man, I just cop, like, hey, dig it. I got some on the lay on you, brother. It's the brand, it's the bomb, Dig it, man. Just take this brand.
folks. Welcome back to the show. We've pretty much covered all of the bases of the crazy shit that's been going on. And you know, we've taken a look at how Justice for All are attempting to reform the Ombudsman Commission. And it really, really brought back the memories of Morgan's altercation with the authorities, which he shared with us on Tyrannosaur Community Radio. Just by the minor infraction of sitting in the front seat of a car with his daughter on his lap, he managed to be yelled and screamed at by a bunch of overgrown children, humiliated in front of his family to the point where his child broke down in tears. He had €50 stolen from his personal effects, was pretty much given the American-esque good cop, bad cop routine to get him to sign a piece of paper, which he didn't, thankfully, and then thrown in a jail cell, and good God, how two words can become one. Thrown in a jail cell and then yelled and screamed at some more. Absolutely appalling behaviour of the police in Dublin. And when he walked out, what did he want to do? He wanted to deal with that on his own terms, and he just wanted to get on. He didn't want to go to the people who apparently or suggestively are out for his best interests, the Ombudsman Commission. He didn't want to go to those people because he knew it was going to be a waste of his time and money. He wasn't going to get any word back on that issue. And you know what? Morgan would like to join us for a wee chat, which is great. It's just I need to find the goddamn headphones for this computer. So hold on a second, because we're going to get this good fellow on and have a wee chat with him. Just as I set up the technical side of calling someone on Skype and piping them into the show. I could have had this all done, but I didn't. But maybe while we wait, I can just yap on about this Enda Kenny fucker who brought up the whole conflict in Northern Ireland to justify his dick riding of Barack Obama. This fucking worm had the gall to suggest that somehow Barack was helping the peace process by being there, just like we had Clinton visiting Belfast and giving little speeches. It's quite funny that a coke dealer would go around the world preaching to people about peace. I'll fix that up for you in a second. Actually, I'll fix this one and give it to you. Okay, I'm not from Northern Ireland. My family's from Northern Ireland, and that means that I've learned enough to know that there is already peace in Ireland. The only thing disrupting peace is the hidden hand molesting the peaceful people of Northern Ireland, trying to reawaken this hatred. The people of Northern Ireland don't need any fucking help. They are peaceful. Every time a child is born in Northern Ireland, we have more peace. Because every person born in Northern Ireland is peaceful. Okay? Except for, you know, the odd one here and there. The odd nutcase. Born into a nutcase family. But hey, you know what? There's nutcases everywhere. You get what I'm saying? We don't need any external help in this regard. You know, let me just fiddle about with this. Okay, that to this. This to that, and that to this. Okay, let's start all of these up. Let's switch the microphone over. Give us a second. Okay, testing. Yes, we are a go. Okay, I'll give Morgan a ring here. Because this is something we want to discuss, and you know, particularly Morgan is interested in what Francesca has to say about the whole debacle. So here we go.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Phone's getting in the way of the computer.
Hi.
Hello, Francesca. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm okay. A little nervous about being live, but what can you do, you know?
Yeah.
You roll with it.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought I'd just ring in and one, I wanted to hear Francesca's insights on what happened to me, and also your own. And if you have any questions, just ask away, you know?
Yeah, I was really appalled when I heard about your experience. I mean, you know, Howard told me about what happened, and then I listened to your own account on your show. And although you were discussing it during, you know, your discussion of Brave New World, it of Orwell's 1984, that something could just be, basically you were persecuted for not giving them your name. I mean, that's what it amounted to, for not obeying them. And that seemed to be, I mean, that was my impression, that that's what infuriated them, that you refused to acknowledge their authority and submit to them. And ultimately, they had nothing. You had done nothing. I mean, they throw you in jail over having, you know, your daughter in your lap. I mean, the way they treated you, it was as if you'd committed armed robbery.
I know.
It was outrageous.
Well, I was looking at it on a different level as well. I don't know if this makes sense to anybody, but I try to hold myself to a higher account, you know?
Yes.
And when I was in the cell, obviously I had 4 to 6 hours to think about what was going on, you know? And my thought was, although when I had my...
Oh dear, we seem to be having technical difficulties.
I don't
hold myself, maybe.
Yeah, we part of you got cut off, and there was no volume.
Okay.
We're making some adjustments.
Can you hear me now?
You're coming in and you're not breaking up.
Yeah. It's on the Skype side. Sad to say.
No.
You know, but it will clear up. You know, there's a few things I can shut down here as well that will aid the process. So, can you give a go at talking again,
No,
Morgan?
I can't hear anyone.
You can't hear us now? Oh dear.
No.
Oh.
Oh well.
We've got to
shit.
do it. I mean, you were able to get me before I came here.
Yeah, I think, you know what that is? That's actually a bad connection.
Right. So we need to restart the call.
We do, and we will.
Maybe send him a little text so he knows what's going on. Okay,
well,
you're just
we'll
calling.
explain to him when the moment arises. We'll shut in the browser because we don't need any of that information anymore.
Right.
So, sorry for the hold-up, folks. No, it's not going to work. Not now, anyway. Well, we'll just wait for the Skype connection to pick up in quality again. But what really strikes me about Morgan's attitude to all of this, and the way he actually conducted himself in the moment, is that he does hold himself to what exactly did he say?
To a higher authority. And that was really the source of the conflict, because he was not acknowledging their authority. And he was being civil to them, but he was not acknowledging their authority over him. That they had a right to command him and to get his name and so on. And I think that was the source of their fury, because they expect that. They take it for granted that, you know, that their authority is, you know, to be, obeyed.
Even above that of God.
Yeah, it's just, they just expect this unconditional obedience. And if someone comes along and they couldn't get him because he didn't lose his cool, raise his voice. He was, he was centered and calm throughout the whole thing. And they can find it easier to deal with if somebody's yelling, screaming, because then they know what to do. They're like, oh yeah, let's beat this fool down.
Public Order Act.
But if somebody's not doing any of those things, they're really at a loss.
Well, the thing is that they had to claim, at some point they claimed that he started yelling and shouting obscenities.
They tried, but it didn't work. Ultimately, they had to set him free because it was crap.
An inspiration to us all, I think, Morgan is, and his situation. A real inspiration.
Yes. And it was very, it was just very timely. I mean, considering the book that he was discussing, that incident had occurred. You know, it's just very strange how those parallels happen in our lives between what we're reading and what we're thinking about, and
what we go through.
And it shows the relevance of that book that was written, like, I think, at least 50 years ago, possibly, I think, more than 50 years ago, and how like relevant these works still are.
Okay, we've switched back to the main microphone. We're going to wait for Morgan to log back in. I think he's just restarting his connection or something.
Okay.
Because he appeared offline.
I see.
Yeah. After I told him the Skype connection just isn't enough. Although it is quite strange, it shows on the statistics that he's still listening. So, who knows?
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to talk a bit more.
Yeah. Really. Morgan's only really ever been on EV radio once before. Not including his little 7-minute thing that he did for us that time.
Which was brilliant.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, I'd like to listen to that again.
We should play it again sometime.
Sure.
In the meantime, let's discuss Luke Ming Flanagan's proposal that's going to come in November to the Irish government, which is the Cannabis Regulation Bill of 2013. I haven't read the full extent of this bill, but it's really a banner moment for Luke Flanagan. He's actually going to do it. After all these years, he's going to put forward a bill of his own, which will reform the way the government deals with cannabis use. Let me just Cannabis Regulation Bill 2013. Great. Just great. No, I want Google. I don't want search funmoods.com. I don't want that. How the hell? Fucking spyware, I swear. Okay, so we're still patiently awaiting our friend to come back on air. He'll come back, I'm sure. But it is kind of funny. I was listening to because I listen to everything from this guy. I was listening to a Michael Tsarian interview on some fringe radio station, and they were using Skype as well to call people in to talk. And the first part of the show, for the first 5 minutes, they just couldn't get him on because Skype was acting up. And the presenter suggested that they know what we're up to, What you looking for?
It's okay. We'll discuss it afterwards.
Okay. Look, Skype works for people. You go on Skype, you can talk for hours without any interruption. But if you try to use it for, fringe purposes, then, you're going to suffer. Just like we're suffering now. And, Skype isn't going to, let their service be glitchy. Because, at least in my mind, if you can't get a decent service on the free, on the free tier of their service, then why would you pay for an upgraded service?
Well, this is their logic. They're hoping to drive people into that. Oh, if you want better service, you should pay.
But why would I buy a better service if the...
Could you pass me that, please?
Yes, I can. If... You know what it is? It's the headphones. If the phone is near the headphones, it will do that as well. Why would I buy something from a company that can't give me decent fucking coverage? It's
it's just very odd that this is happening now.
It is very odd. I think there are people out there that don't want stories like this breaking. That don't want true acts of heroism being broadcast.
Because that's when it started.
When
we started conversing about this incident.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden...
Yeah, I thought Morgan was just refreshing his internet connection, but no, look, he's still connected here. He's still listening to the station, but his Skype is just dead. Our Skype is doing fine. I see everyone else is logged in, and that means I'm logged in.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, I hope it's just some technical difficulties on his end, but this isn't,
It's
something
creepy.
deliberate.
I don't know. I hope it's deliberate, for, propaganda purposes. Oh, look what they're doing. It's real. The conspiracy is real, folks. There are people out there who are trying to manage public perception. Okay, well, let's take a look at Ming Flanagan's proposal for cannabis regulation. He's going to present this on the 6th of November of this year. The Cannabis Regulation Bill of 2013 will be presented to the Dáil Chamber by independent TD Luke Ming Flanagan, Roscommon and South Leitrim. This bill will be debated by TDs to reform the Irish drug laws that affect the botanical plant genus cannabis. The legislation will call on the Irish government to develop a commercial cannabis industry in Ireland and cannabis research facilities in medical, horticulture, biochemical and food industries. It will possibly contain these following plans: decriminalise personal possession of up to 28 grams, that's 1 ounce. So that means that, people that go out and they get more than a 50 bag, which is 3 grams, 3-ish grams, they don't need to live in fear that if they go out and buy an ounce that is cheaper and will last them longer, because you like to stock up. You buy a big box of washing powder. You buy a big lot of things that won't decay because you only want to go out once every now and again. Now the fear will be gone of being busted and then being called a drug dealer by the courts. If you have an ounce on you today, you're a drug dealer, which is appalling. And when you actually make it into a courtroom, can you say this to the judge? No. And if you do manage to say it, will they take you seriously? No. Because, of course, that will open up the precedent for every other drug dealer to say, hey, I was just stockpiling. Okay, the second bullet point is allow licensed citizens to grow cannabis plants. That's a little better than no one being able to grow cannabis plants. Develop large-scale cannabis and hemp farms. Now this could... there's the dark side of commercialized weed, but as for commercialized hemp, that's the best news ever. You can make a whole house or a car out of hemp. You can make your clothes out of hemp. Okay, we all know this.
It's multiple uses.
Yeah, and
not to mention food. That hemp seeds are excellent nutrition.
Oh,
and
yeah.
right now, I think all of the hemp seeds have to be imported. I think, right now, Canada is the biggest exporter of hemp seed.
Oh, that means that because we eat hemp seeds as a part of our diet. I would like to eat more, but hey, they're just so expensive. That means that we don't have to import anymore. Why bother spending all of that fuel and extra money on bringing hemp seeds all the way over from Canada when you can have it here? And why fuck up the environment? I can see importing coconuts, pineapples, ginger. I can see importing those things. I can see importing silicon chips for computers. But things that you can grow here is appalling. The next bullet point is manufacture and develop medical cannabis compounds. Okay, not totally thumbs up on that. Because when you extract something from a plant and then you magnify it, it has been shown to have medical benefits, but what can that lead to? It's very open. Compounds, cannabis compounds. The next bullet point is introduce cannabis medicine to the HSE program. Yay! I wonder what reasons they'll be distributing cannabis to people through the HSE. And if you've ever been in one of those buildings, the most stuffiest people in the world, imagine those people handing out prescriptions for cannabis. It's laughable. The last bullet point is detailed rules for production, distribution, and quality control. I'd like to know what those are. Do you have anything to add on all of these bullet points before I continue reading?
That this looks promising. I mean, this would be, I think this would be a good development. And the only thing I wonder about, if you could go back to the bullet points.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Is that regarding the second one, allowing licensed citizens to grow cannabis plants. I understand the logic of this, but I'm just concerned that and I can see the interests of the state, that in the way this would be promoted would be, this will be added revenue for us, or a transformation of revenue as opposed to fining people and incarcerating them and so on. But I'm wondering what those fees would be.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it won't be cheap, and there'll be all sorts of hoops that people have to jump through in order to be licensed. So it could still be issues, because I have a feeling that a lot of people out there wouldn't necessarily qualify. It won't just be a matter of paying money. I'm sure there'll be just, a whole slew of requirements that people are that people have to fulfill. So, but I still think that this would be an improvement over the current situation. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes.
Now, I personally, I think this is good. This is better than nothing. But I would just prefer to see decriminalization across the board. Just decriminalize it completely. Because all the fears about marijuana are unsubstantiated. And we've heard these arguments ad infinitum that, no one's died of this, blah, blah, blah. And in the words of Joe Rogan, if marijuana fucked up your life, it's because marijuana got there first. As in, you could use anything to fuck up your life. You could use computer games to fuck up your life. Should we draft legislation to criminalize video games and then decriminalize people having up to 2 video games and 1 video game console?
What about alcohol, for that matter?
Yeah,
I don't see anyone, ever going after that.
Yeah, because it's everyone does it, and sure, it's great revenue for the exchequer.
And in fact, actually, more deaths, many more deaths, are caused by alcohol. I mean, if we think of drunk driving, DWI, I mean, people actually die. I haven't heard about anyone crashing a car because they smoked a joint first. Okay. I mean, generally it's alcohol related.
And you know what? Just to carry on from that point you made. No, the reason why you haven't heard of that is because it can't fucking happen. If you smoke enough marijuana to crash a car, you aren't going to be able to get into the car to crash it. You're going to be glued to the sofa.
It just won't happen.
Yeah. Like, really, you're going to be, if anything, you're just going to be transfixed by something in the outside world, like a TV show or some music. Or you're going to be inside your head having this deep existential conversation with yourself. Right. You're not going to be driving anywhere.
And you won't be motivated to drive in any way.
Exactly.
So, but nobody goes after alcohol. That's a legal drug, even though they're,
Dutch courage. You've heard of the term Dutch courage, right?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, it's the idea of, I don't want to ask this girl out. I don't want to, jump out of the plane because I don't think my parachute will open. Well, fuck it, here's a shot of vodka, here's some Dutch courage.
Oh, okay.
Because alcohol makes you confident. It removes your critical ability. It removes, your ability to think, but it also removes your inhibitions, and it gives you the energy too.
That's a dangerous combination.
Yes. Put a car into that equation and
yeah, but you just hit it on the head, just lessening of critical thinking abilities along with removal of inhibitions. That is quite an explosive combination. And then add an automobile. And
there you have it.
Yes.
And
chaos ensues.
And again, nobody legislates against alcohol.
Nope.
The only legislation you have on alcohol is how much someone can drink before they're arrested while driving, and how much we're going to put tax on alcohol. That's the only legislation that exists. Oh yeah, and who can sell it? Because of course you don't want a bunch of people brewing their own alcohol and then not paying tax. I'll continue with this little announcement from Luke Ming Flanagan. From 7 p.m. on the 6th of November, TDs will be debating and voting on the proposition. The Irish government are currently redrafting the Misuse of Drugs Act to allow one product called Sativex, designed for treating multiple sclerosis and delivered orally in an alcohol-suspended solution of 2.5% THC and 2.4% CBD in a 10 ml bottle. Now, I don't know what CBD is, but THC is the active compound in marijuana.
Yeah, I don't know what CBD is either. We could look that up, I imagine.
Yes. Oh, bollocks. I just ruined this. Okay. Yeah, I'm back. Okay. So let's look up what CBD is, because that could be worrying. I've got a feeling that it's another extract from the cannabis plant. And just while CBD, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
D.
Right.
They were
cannabis. Yes, it's linked to cannabis. It's cannabidiol. Cannabidiol.
It's a major constituent of the plant, second to THC.
Okay. Well, I wonder what that effect has on people.
It's less psychoactive, and it's considered to have a wider scope of medical applications than THC, including epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, spasms, anxiety disorders, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, nausea, convulsion, and inflammation, as well as inhibiting cancer cell growth. Good stuff. Go smoke a joint. It's good for you.
Okay. This is not right nor fair. Ireland's TDs need to wake up and smell the cannabis. Very funny. if they learn about the truth about cannabis and are willing to embrace change, they will vote yes to legalize herbal cannabis and create a regulated market. Presently, the Irish Misuse of Drugs Act has cannabis/hemp strictly controlled. Individuals and companies must possess a license to cultivate/study industrial hemp and cannabis. So we can't even grow hemp. You have to have a license to grow hemp. It's not psychoactive, but you need a license for it. It's the whole throwback to why marijuana was initially banned in the States, which is what we get our we learned our drug prohibitions off the United States model. The reason why they outlawed the whole family of hemp is because it was threatening the paper and textiles industries, and people were discovering more and more what they could do with it, which even it started to threaten the plastic industry. Anyhow, I'll just keep going on. Yes.
And from what I recall, in the film, the documentary about the war on drugs, In My House, there was some discussion of the early banning and outlawing of marijuana, and it also had something to do with, like, 'cause the first people that they went after, the first group of people they went after were the Mexicans. So there might have been a link there in terms of the criminalization of marijuana and border disputes. I mean, that seemed to be the implication. That it wasn't the sole cause, of course.
Right.
But I think it was a combination of factors. It was the competition with the, with the industries producing paper, lumber industries, and so on, and textile industries. There was that angle, and also this, because at that particular time period when it was criminalized, the major source was Mexico.
And that would be a big threat, of course.
Yeah. So.
But really, at the end of the day, they're to blame for groups like the cartel. Because once the prohibition came in, then this thing became a luxury item in the black market, and thus the price went up.
Well, that was the decision, to make it black market.
Which was a very, very bad idea. For them it was probably a great idea because that's what they wanted, but it was a very bad idea for us because now we have the cartel in Mexico pushing, they were pushing cocaine, now they're pushing methamphetamine and flooding the country with that, which is devastating America.
Oh, yeah.
It is literally rotting America. People are rotting. People have collapsed veins, they have sores on their faces, their teeth are crumbling, and the law enforcement cannot keep up with this. And I'm pretty sure that it goes back to the prohibition of cocaine and marijuana, where a group like the cartel could get a foothold. Maybe, they would still be the gatekeepers of bringing cocaine into the country, because you can't really go grow coca in America, can you?
No.
Okay.
It's not grown in the States.
But if the U.S. citizens could grow their own marijuana, then, we'd be guaranteed that the cartel wouldn't be as strong as they are today. And less damage would be done by these fucking cunts. I should continue on with this thing that I'm reading. Okay, yeah. While industrial cannabis hemp can be grown with a THC density of 0.2%, The Irish government does little to no promotion nor offer incentives to develop the hemp industry. There is a white glove section in the government which represses all cannabis initiatives and related businesses. In Belgium, the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, Germany, Czech Republic, Switzerland, and Hungary, and many other nations have decriminalize possession and or allow citizens to grow personal amounts of cannabis without interference from the justice system. The grammar in this is atrocious. I think he was high when he wrote this.
Look at the source.
What? Oh, Facebook? Well, yeah, that's the thing, you know. But this was written by someone called Mark Moore and Legalized Cannabis Ireland. These people were high when they wrote this. It's the worst fucking advertisement for marijuana ever. This is disgraceful, you know? Because everyone against this initiative are going to be saying, hey, look, you know, we spend all this money putting our children through school. Now we want to promote a plant that, like, makes people stupid.
Well, I think we need to find a better source and then put that up as a link after the show. I'm sure we can.
Yeah. But the disgusting thing is that this was linked on Tyrannosaur.
Oh, really?
By Kevin himself.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Could you scroll up? Because I want to see if there's another place where we can get this. Just hang on. All right. Legalized Cannabis Ireland. Okay, I'm going to look that up and see if they have a site.
But those are the people that wrote this.
No, I know they wrote it, but they wrote it for Facebook, and I want to see if they have it up on their own site.
Right.
I mean,
maybe a revised
something.
version.
Yeah, something.
Okay, so I'll continue. France, Austria, Germany, the Netherlands, Israel, Spain, Czech Republic, Canada, and the USA, 19 states, allow medical cannabis use. Washington and Colorado in the states have introduced a legalized and regulated cannabis market. Uruguay recently voted to create a legalized government-regulated cannabis market. Huh? We get the idea, though. Studies from all around the world have proved that cannabis has medical benefits and uses for many of illnesses from cancer, AIDS, HIV, glaucoma, arthritis, MS, Parkinson's, epilepsy, and many others. By having regulated cannabis, the Irish nation would bring in millions of euros into the economy. This is a fallacy. People are fucking going around with this stupid propaganda that it would bring money into the economy. Money from where? Money from where? Where does this money come from? Where does it enter the loop? Like, oh, people will be buying cannabis. Yeah, okay, where do they get the money? They'll work in the cannabis fields. Okay, where do the people that are managing these fields get the money to pay for the cannabis? People buy the cannabis. Okay, where are the people that are buying the cannabis going to get the money? It's an infinite loop. The money just doesn't appear out of thin air, okay? Fuck. Jesus fucking Christ, these people are fucking ridiculous. These are the people that are fighting for cannabis legalization. Fuck you. I'm sorry, I don't speak for my co-host here, but fuck you. Personally, I'm going to say fuck you. Jesus, I'm closing this down. Fuck this shit. Let me know if you find
I went to look it up and it froze my computer, so...
oh, that's really weird.
Yeah, so I had to go into the task manager and, now I have to reopen my browser.
Oh, that's creepy. You know what happened to me when I was out doing my thing on Thursday, getting shopping together and stuff, and I sat down at the cafe and was keeping an eye on Tyrannosaur community chat, and I saw this link to an InfoWars article, which comes into our whole Uranus square Pluto discussion. this, while the discussions were going on to alleviate the government shutdown in the States, the stenographer stood up in a trance-like state and started to say such things as, "He will not be mocked. A house divided cannot stand. You cannot mock Jesus Christ. This was never a nation under God, such and such and such and such." My browser kept crashing on that page.
Interesting. Oh, you mentioned that.
Yeah. And I don't know whether it's the shitty coding in InfoWars web design. It could very well be. Because, it's new technology relatively. I personally haven't caught up with mobile devices yet. But the other possibility is that someone was intercepting my phone and crashing the fucking thing. Which is really sinister, because they know how we think. They know how conspiracy theorists think, right? So I gather that they want to make us paranoid and think that, oh, I'm on the right track here by them being interfered with. If I'm being interfered with while doing something, it's only logical for me to think, oh, someone's trying to stop me from doing this thing, so I will try to do it all the more. If I'm looking at something online and it's being shut down, it's being censored, then the assumption is, oh, this must be true because the powers that be are censoring it. But that's not true these days. They're doing the double take on this. They're doing the sleight of hand where they will censor the incorrect information to get us to delusionally think that, this bullshit is true. This stenographer, come on, you can't get 5 seconds in City Hall. Never mind Congress. You try to walk up on in front of the microphone and try to say something in Congress or in City Hall, even City Hall in Galway, Ireland. You can't fucking do it, okay? You get switched off. The security guards will come and take you away immediately.
Yeah. So how did she get as far as she did?
Because there was even in the report. There was this person that was saying, "Oh, I was scrambling for the controls to turn it off."
Just on a slightly different topic.
Oh,
Look
fuck.
at this photograph of Ming Flanagan.
Oh, holy shit! You see, this is why they call him Ming.
No,
because...
but he looks like he's tripping and balls or something. Look at him.
Yeah, really.
What is with this photograph? As if that's some person on drugs right there.
Yeah.
This seems to be the subtext, and we should put this link up so people can see this.
I think that should be the featured photo of the podcast, to be honest. That's ridiculous. Okay,
but
folks.
but look at the photograph and look at the headline that it accompanies. Irish politician claims legalization of cannabis can aid recovery from economic collapse. Yes, and clearly I can see people sitting over their tea. Yes, he looks mad.
Yeah.
Just look.
And then all possible support that they would have for the issue would go out the window. Folks, what we're looking at right now is irishcentral.com, their news piece on Luke Ming Flanagan's move to regulate the cannabis market. This is why they call him Ming Flanagan, or Ming, because he looks like Ming the Merciless. And thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, as inconsistently written as that Facebook article is, it seems to be the most comprehensive. Like, I'm not finding, I wanted to find something with bullet points that would describe the bill.
Yes.
And that seemed to bring a lot of information together. very concisely, and that's probably why it was chosen.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's really embarrassing that these
Yeah.
are the only people that put out a press release.
It is ridiculous. I mean, why am I not able to? I'm finding just articles about it. When I click on them, they don't give like a really comprehensive overview of the bill. And why, what if you want to know about this, why should you just go to Facebook? Something's wrong with that picture. You should, like if citizens should be able to see the bill. And it should be an objective site, not Facebook. Should be some sort of government site, like here's the bill. I mean, I don't know.
Well, no, that won't happen until it's actually presented.
Okay.
That's the thing. It
I
cannot
see.
be made public domain yet.
Okay.
But the thing is that you're right. Why is it on Facebook? Why isn't it on a website that people created themselves for this movement or whatever? And why are these people so absent-minded that they didn't think of asking someone or hiring someone to edit the piece so that the only little thing out there supporting the cause isn't going to drive people away?
Look at this. I got taken back to this again.
Right.
To the redirected. I was trying to find this through through Reddit. Okay, like I clicked on this link here. Goodness, did I go too far back? But anyway, it was a Reddit site. Look, reddit.com.
Uh-huh.
And that took me to Facebook.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Look, Reddit is ridiculous. I'm sorry to say, but you know, it's a cesspool like boards.ie. It's basically the American version of boards.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, it was a nice dream, but it died with the creator.
Mm.
So, shall we cut to a song, Francesca?
Sounds good.
Yeah, okay. This is Eugenics 8 with Games. This is a liquid track. Very beautiful. Stay tuned.
see, that's probably why Kevin put it up, because there wasn't anything else.
No.
Which is really disgusting. I mean, there are articles about it, but just not something that lays it out. Like, they don't really give that much information about it. Not the way that, I mean, that's the most comprehensive.
Well, then this initiative is in a lot of trouble, isn't it?
Yeah, if the only place you can get information is from Facebook?
And it's written at the level of English of well, actually, no school child would be allowed to write that badly.
I mean, they're talking about it. There are articles, but like I said, look at this. Look at my hits. Look at this. I put in, and I figured this was good. Look, cannabis decriminalization bill, Ireland.
Right.
So the first thing is something on YouTube. Then we've got the Facebook here. Then we've got this poll, which really doesn't give much. It's very thin. Everything on that I'm finding is very, very thin. And then there's all these like blogs that I wouldn't take those seriously. You know, the joint blog and the weed blog. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I was looking for something.
You're not going to convince anyone with names like that.
No, I was looking for something that was actually like some kind of recognizable journal. And look at this. I'm like, is this me? But no, there's just. See what this is. Time to clear the air on cannabis. This is the irishtimes.com.
Clear the air.
Yeah, haha.
And what are the Irish Times saying?
And then where do they get this? Who's this? At least a cancer patient.
Oh, right. Wearing a lithium t-shirt. Very nice.
Wait a minute. The majority of users are male? Where'd they get this from?
There have been, statistics collected on marijuana use in Ireland. And it's appalling how many people have tried it as opposed to how many people have tried it in Holland. I forget the exact percentage, but more than half of the people in Ireland have tried cannabis. And yet only 17% of people in Holland have tried cannabis, where it's seriously decriminalized. Which is an excellent argument for decriminalizing cannabis. Even if you don't like it, decriminalize it, and then the whole taboo will be gone.
Yeah, this article is more about it in general, but it's not specifically talking about Flanagan's bill, and that's what I'm looking for.
Excusez-moi. Well, do we have any more substance to add to this show, or shall we drop it?
Do we have any? Was there anything else on your agenda that we didn't get to? Did we go through everything?
No.
So then maybe we should end it. I mean, it's almost 10.
Yeah, it is almost 10, and
we've added for almost 3 hours. So.
And I'm sure that people would like to tune into the Parliament of Birds on Tyrannosaur Community Radio right now, and on air is currently broadcasting.
Alright.
So yeah, we can drop it, and folks, call around to evrn.net. There's a nice big red bright button in case you miss it. It's a subscribe button. Just go there, fill in your name and your email. We'll let you know the day or 7 hours beforehand of a show, because we have inconsistent shows. We don't do it weekly, we do it lunarly.
Well, they're a different type of consistence. So it's not that we're inconsistent, but we're not following the Gregorian calendar. We're following the lunar calendar.
And we have placed the dates for our shows at every full moon and new moon. And we try to we try to style our shows accordingly. But of course, for the most part, we are impromptu. I don't come on with a whole big agenda, as it were. When Francesca mentioned my agenda, she was really referring to this little list I made 2 hours before I came on. I didn't. We woke up, right, and we had no idea what we were going to do.
Oh, no, that's not true.
Oh, we had a general idea of what we might touch upon, but we had no idea that we'd pull up all of this.
Well, we hadn't fully expanded it, so some of it, we go with what's going on.
Exactly.
I mean, there's some degree of spontaneity and, a direct response to current events. And I think, I think that's valid. I mean,
it is
to start with a general outline,
and fill it in from there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my point was going to be that that's more valid than the other way of doing things, which is to have a dead set certain idea of what I want people, or what we want people to think.
It's too rigid.
Yeah. And to be honest, my brain can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
My brain can't handle structure all that well. Only spontaneity. Okay, folks, pop around to evrn.net. If you missed any part of the show, you'll be able to get the archive of this show tomorrow. Just click on the date on the calendar, and that'll link you through to the archive. And, good night.
Okay, good night.
Up this morning, things weren't working right. I said I wanna make a change. I said I wanna fight. Obama walked up and said, yes, we can. I said I wanna ride your nuts, cause I think you're the man. Now I'm dick riding Obama, Obama. Now I'm dick riding Obama, Obama. Now I'm dick riding Obama, Obama. Now I'm dick riding.
Dick riding for tomorrow, dick riding for today, dick riding for the straight, dick riding for the gay, dick riding for America, dick riding for Iraq. It's okay to ride that dick, just as long as it's Barack's, and now we're dick riding.